This is also a moment to remember how rare and consequential July's 8.8 really was. Quakes that large belong to a short list, stretching from Chile to Alaska to Sumatra and Japan. They rearrange coastlines. They alter hazard maps. They can change how we live at the water's edge. Today's 7.8 didn't dismantle harbors or flood neighborhoods, but it spoke in the same language, one this coastline has heard for generations. So where does that leave us on this September day? With a clear set of facts. A magnitude 7.8 earthquake struck off Kamchatka's eastern coast in the early hours, shallow at roughly 10 kilometers. It produced a sequence of aftershocks up to 5.8. Tsunami warnings and advisories were issued for Kamchatka's eastern shore and parts of the Kuril Islands. Advisories reached across the Pacific to Alaska and Hawaii. Small waves were observed near the epicenter. By late afternoon Eastern Time, Hawaii received the all-clear. Alaska's advisories were lifted. No damage was reported. USGS has confirmed this 7.8 as the largest aftershock of July's 8.8 main shock on the Kuril-Kamchatka plate boundary. Behind those facts is a simple truth. Earth is still writing the story of the July megathrust. Today was another sentence. Strong, attention-grabbing, but not a new chapter. The risk rose, then receded. The ocean stayed mostly calm. People went back to their lives. And yet, the memory of what the ocean can do remains. On coastlines across the Pacific, that memory is a kind of wisdom. It keeps bags packed by the door, routes memorized, radios charged. It keeps drills from feeling optional. It keeps a community ready for the wave that may never come, and the one that might. If you live along these shores, you already know this. If you don't, days like today are reminders of how much coordination it takes to keep millions safe. Scientists reading the fault, forecasters parsing the ocean, officials balancing caution and calm, residents choosing action over doubt. The aftershock has passed. The risk is waning. The system worked. And somewhere beneath the Pacific, along the long, cold trench east of Kamchatka, the plates continue their slow collision, quietly, relentlessly, until the next time the Earth decides to speak.
Early morning, Russia's far east. The quiet over Petropavlovsk-Kamchatsky was broken by a deep, rolling shudder, strong enough to send people to doorways, strong enough to light up sensors across the Pacific Rim. A magnitude 7.8 earthquake struck off Kamchatka's eastern coast, shallow, about 10 kilometers down, where the Pacific plate dives beneath the North American plate. Within minutes, aftershocks clicked into place, one after another, some as large as magnitude 5.8, like echoes returning from the depths of the fault. This was not an isolated shock. Less than 2 months earlier, the same margin unleashed a magnitude 8.8 megathrust, among the 10 strongest earthquakes ever recorded. Today's 7.8 was the largest aftershock so far. The sequence is still alive. Officials moved fast. In Kamchatka, the governor, Vladimir Solodov, took to telegram to steady nerves. A tsunami warning had been issued along the peninsula's eastern shore and parts of the Kuril Islands. Emergency services were on high readiness, and, crucially, no damage reported. Across the ocean, the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center and the U.S. National Weather Service posted advisories. In Alaska, watches were considered. In Hawaii, forecasters ran the models, updated buoy data, and watched the energy spread. Closer to the epicenter, small tsunami waves were observed, near-field signatures of the sea floor's sudden displacement. But the energy faded with distance. By late afternoon Eastern Time, Hawaii got the all-clear. Alaska's advisories were lifted. The risk, once sharp, began to wane. To understand what just happened, you need to see the whole story, not just today, but July 29.
On that day, the subduction zone off Kamchatka tore in a magnitude 8.8 rupture. It was a planetary-scale event, one that rang through global seismic networks, triggered Pacific-wide warnings, and reminded everyone on the Ring of Fire how quickly the ocean can change character. And yet, despite the fear, the July quake did not produce the catastrophic tsunami many expected. Local geology, how the fault moved, the shape of the seafloor, the trench's geometry, helped blunt the most dangerous waves beyond the immediate coast. Today's 7.8 is part of that same story. After big quakes, large aftershocks are not just possible, they're expected. In seismology, the magnitude scale is logarithmic. Each step up is roughly 32 times more energy. That means July's 8.8 released well over 30 times the energy of today's 7.8, with shaking amplitudes about 10 times greater. The numbers may look close. Physically, they are worlds apart. But magnitude alone doesn't tell you what the ocean will do. Tsunamis depend on vertical motion, how much the seafloor heaves upward or drops. They depend on the width of the rupture, the speed of slip, the depth and the bathymetry, the underwater landscape that can focus or diffuse a wave. That is why officials warn widely and then, with new data, dial risk down with care. Today followed that pattern. Warnings and advisories first, monitoring and modeling second, then the all clear. In Kamchatka, the pattern of readiness is the difference between alarm and catastrophe. Sirens work, drills matter, and on a peninsula that juts deep into the Bering Sea and the Pacific, the fastest route inland, the nearest hillside, the highest road, these are not abstractions. They are muscle memory. For a moment, step back from the shoreline and look beneath it. The Kuril-Kamchatka plate boundary starts near northern Japan, traces the eastern coast of Kamchatka, then arcs toward the Aleutian Islands. It's an immense conveyor belt of rock, where the Pacific plate sinks under the North American plate. The rate is measured in centimeters per year, about as fast as your fingernails grow. But that slow motion hides brutal physics. Over decades, patches of the plate boundary lock. They grip. Stress builds, and when the patch fails, energy stored over lifetimes is released in minutes.